I recommend with students that they read the syllabus in the same way that they would read a book, because reading the syllabus in an active and engaged manner ensures that you know the professor's mind. When we teach the art of analytic reading, or what we jokingly call ninja reading, we get the students to look for key things in the text and to annotate in a very systematic and specific way. We teach the students to look for assertive verbs, for which we get them to write angled brackets around, because we want those assertive verbs to pop. For instance, in this case, it's replicate and guide and provide. And then in the examples of the actual syllabus for the art of analytic reading, it's to do the three most important things, which is to assess in the first phase of reading, to analyze in the second phase of reading, and to annotate in the third phase of reading. In the first phase, we encourage students to assess the layout of the book, chapter, or essay. As a result, the students should glance ahead, should preview the content, and should scan each page. We tend to recommend 10 to 20 seconds a page, which, for the standard article or chapter is 30 pages, is 300 seconds or 600 seconds, so in other words, 5 to 10 minutes. And in that process, they look for specific things, and we give them advice on what to look for as you're assessing the layout of the book. Second phase, we teach students how to analyze the logical structure and the direction of the argument. We teach them how to deconstruct the text. And the way we teach them how to deconstruct the text is to look for the most crucial aspects of any text. And those crucial aspects tend to occur around what we call pivotal conjunctions and assertive verbs. And so to get those pivotal conjunctions and assertive verbs to pop, we encourage students to put square brackets around the conjunctions and angled brackets around the verbs, so that they immediately know what to look for in the text. They immediately know that two things happen. One, for the assertive verb, that there's going to be a source on one side and a key idea, argument, or quotation on the other side. And then for the pivotal conjunction, they know that there's going to be a change in the logical flow, where the argument that the author takes, the approach that the author has in the work, is going to pivot around a conjunction like however, but, therefore, yet, furthermore, moreover. And it's that change in logic that is essential to keep aware of, because it's the move that the author makes as they incorporate these other crucial ideas and sources. In the third phase of analytic reading, we teach the students how to annotate. In this phase, we really encourage them to employ the maxim of you're not reading if your pen isn't moving, to peruse the text, in other words, to closely read the text word for word, but to stay focused on it throughout the entire time by annotating it in specific ways that keep your mind active. For instance, we encourage the students to write out the names of sources and authors, to write out the dates of key texts and key events. If they're reading history, it creates a chronological timeline that helps one to break down the chronological narrative that the author or the historian is using to narrate their history. If it's an academic text, they're writing down the names of great thinkers who are engaging with the ideas that we encourage the students to look for, the ideas and the quotations and the arguments that happen around these assertive verbs, because there's going to be, what we always tell them, a source on one side. And so with a specific list of recommended annotations, the student remains fully engaged in the text. And that whole process, that whole idea of reading, is built on the literature listed here in the syllabus for analytic reading. It builds on great works ranging from the earliest work in 1873 by George Files on how to read a book in the best way, all the way through the early 1900s, like Virginia Woolf's How Should One Read a Book in 1926, on through Rudyard Kipling's short speech on the uses of reading in 1928, George Orwell's great works in the middle of the 20th century, on the way through to Mortimer J. Adler's profound classic, How to Read a Book, and then his republished edition of that. And those texts, they all point to similar aspects of reading, the need to engage actively with what you read so that you have a conversation with the author and your mind stays focused. And all of them advocate the principles of the way what you read affects what you write, what Mortimer Adler calls the reciprocal arts of reading and writing. It's those reciprocal arts where the more you read, the more advanced text you read, and the more you can actively engage with those texts, the better your writing will become, because you'll start to try to emulate the things that authors do well. And as your writing then improves, you'll look for more advanced readings to continue that process. It creates this virtuous cycle. And all great authors from Virginia Woolf and H.G. Wells on through Schopenhauer and Proust, Orwell and Adler, they all address this principle. And so these form the scholarly background and literature from which we base the teaching process of analytic reading on.